All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching us across the state in Nigeria. They say controversies are bound to happen and people are bound to be caught amidst divisions. And of course, whichever way we find ourselves, the circumstances, the truth is what matters. And as people and as a nation, we can only progress when we are dealing with the truth. And of course, today I'm welcoming everybody again to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, Kike Atanda-Owo. Yes, with all that is happening across the state right now, more importantly in Osun State, we are touchlighting Osun State today. I will want the truth to prevail on all fronts, because when it comes to power of character and actually asking our leaders in terms of accountability is what we need to do on this platform. But quickly, let's go on this day in history segment. And exactly, at least about 55 people were killed in the violence that broke out in Lagos last year. And I think it's important for us to get more on this day in history segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This day in 2002 in Lagos, Nigeria, fight broke out between militants of the Yoruba and Hausa tribes. At least 55 people were killed over the next 2 days as fighting spread. The violence that broke out in Lagos, Nigeria 2002 between militants of the Yoruba and Hausa tribes is a tragic reminder of the destructive power of ethnic and tribal conflicts. The loss of life and destruction caused by the fighting is deeply unfortunate, and it's a reminder of the need for unity and peaceful coexistence among different ethnic and tribal groups. Nigeria has a history of ethnic and religious conflicts which have led to loss of lives and displacement of people. These conflicts are often fueled by a complex mix of factors such as poverty, unemployment, political marginalization, and competition for resources.
On this day in history segment, I'm actually thinking aloud that with the violence between the Yoruba and the Hausas, the tribe is a tragic reminder of the destructive power of ethnic and of course the tribal conflict, and it should be a thing of the past if you ask me, because I feel that going forward, living in harmony is key. And nations that are developed don't see color or difference in language. And it's unfortunate that with all that has been happening thus far, at least on this day in history segment on this platform, is a reminder of the Yoruba nation, the IPOB and the likes that has continued to divide the people. And Nigeria is a place that is full of harmony when it comes to we embracing other culture, and also in terms of hospitality in Nigeria. I wish that this segment today will remind us that we need to come together, especially with all that is happening in the political scene, which seems to be affecting everything right now. But you know what? What would history remember about your state or about you or as a nation is left in our hands. I think it's important for us to get a quick message from our sponsors. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. Against the backdrop of a ruling by the Osun State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal nullifying his election as governor, Ademola Adeleke, which has dismissed claims that he forged his school certificate. And of course, his dismissal came from the tribunal's judgment that the All Progressive Congress APC and its candidates in the July 16, 2022 governorship election, and Adegboyega Oyetola proved the case of forgery against Ademola Adeleke. Regarding most of the statement that has been made by the spokesperson, maintained that he didn't forge his certificate, adding that rather his school made a mistake. And on the show today, we will be discussing the sacking of the Osun State governor and of course the legitimacy behind the ruling of the tribunal. And before we dive further, I think it's important for me to quickly look at the profile of our guest today. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us, Mr. Olawale Rasheed. You know what I asked you earlier before we disconnected from your network is the fact that I was asking that let's focus on the issue of these forged certificates. Where did the error come from? Or what is the basis of this allegation? I don't know if you heard my question earlier.
Yes, I had. Thank you very much. I will put it this way. The error is not on the certificate. It has nothing to do with certificate. The error they are talking about is on the testimonial. Instead of the testimonial bearing Oyo, they have Osun there. And the school came before the court to acknowledge that truly it is their mistake, but that the testimonial is genuine. And the Court of Appeal now ruled that there is no forgery. That was in 2018, 2019. So in this present tribunal case, the judge just go on window shopping. Even the petitioner did not ask about anything on forgery with respect to the testimonial. But the judge on his own just went and exhumed a matter that has been adjudicated upon and decided by the Court of Appeal. So there was no forgery in any case, whatever. If you look at the testimonial we are talking about, it's only the problem is Osun instead of Oyo. And the people that produced the testimonial, they came to the court and said, this is our error. The principal of the school came and said, this is our error. And on the strength of that testimony in 2019, the Court of Appeal ruled that Governor Ademola Adeleke did not forge any testimonial. Now, part of the reason why we are saying the judge is biased is that just look at it. The petitioner are not even talking about that testimonial because they know it's already decided by Court of Appeal. But the judge on his own, because of bias, went on his own to pick out that matter. And despite the fact that the principal of the school, they've owned up and said, this is our error. So there is no basis. In fact, there is no certificate forgery.
Right now, I cannot help but ask you these two questions. You know, it's because you've established the fact that it involves two different states. That's the Oyo and Osun states.
And Osun.
I want to believe that the educational institution in these two states are bodies, because have there been a clarification statement from these two bodies? Did the tribunal affirm the authenticity of his educational document before making the ruling? That's the first question I'm asking. And the second question in my head is the fact that the issuing of the school of the school, did they testify before the Court of Appeal in 2018 that it was their error, or would I say that?
Let me put it this way.
All I'm saying right now is the fact that in 2018, I hope that the school testified that it was an error, so that it will have nothing to do with Governor Adeleke. And why was there reference not made to the Court of Appeal in the ruling in 2018? I want to
Thank you very much.
speak to that, because I feel that with that, there won't be any form of forgery that is ongoing at the moment.
Thank you very much. In 2018, the school principal came before the Court of Appeal and actually testified that this error of Oyo Osun is their own, but that the document belonged to them and that the students in question attended this school. And on the strength of that evidence, the Court of Appeal came up and said, oh, there was no forgery. So, and before the tribunal now, the matter was not even an issue for discussion, because the APC people did not even refer to that particular testimonial. And the judge on his own just came and exhumed a matter already decided. So what I'm saying in effect is that before the court in 2018, the testimonial issue was cleared. In fact, the principal came and testified that this testimonial, because of that error, is from them. It's a typo matter. Instead of bearing Oyo, they put Osun. And they said the candidate, that's Governor Ademola Adeleke, was their student. He attended their school. So for it to now come up in 2022 again, that shows clearly elements of bias that we've been talking about this judgment, that the judge was just window shopping, looking for anything to nail an innocent man. So, like to your question, in 2018, this matter has been decided. There was no forgery. Governor Ademola Adeleke did not forge a testimonial. He has all the requisite qualification to contest for this election. A degree certificate was submitted and it was verified. So the judge was wrong to have claimed issue of forgery. There was no forgery.
You mentioned that it's more or less shopping of how to, look for what to tie to him. And it seems that with what you've shared thus far, you are claiming that this was an attempt to damage the reputation of Governor Adeleke. That's all I'm hearing right now. So what are your evidences for such a statement? Because with what you've assumed, or in terms of your submission, because the public needs to have a balanced hearing and a perspective of this case. Can you please re-emphasize on the proof to show that,
thank you very much. The proof we are talking about is, one, the fact that the school principal testified in 2018. That is one. The second proof is the fact that the Court of Appeal actually ruled that there was no forgery, and that Governor Ademola Adeleke did not forge any testimonial. And the third proof, sincerely speaking, is the reality that the matter was not even part of the petition in 2022. It was never pleaded. In fact, the only reference to certificate was what the APC did about questioning whether Governor Adeleke has requisite qualification. And when all his certificates were presented, the APC could not say anything again. So in this case, we want to assure the public that the school principal testified and cleared Governor Adeleke. The Court of Appeal testified and, ruled and cleared Governor Adeleke. And now, the tribunal has no authority to now revise a decision of a Court of Appeal. It was wrong. And that's the bias we are talking about. So in the face of the law, despite that judgment, Governor Adeleke did not forge any testimonial. His certificates are all intact. And to the members of the public, we want to assure that all these are just an attempt to tarnish the image of Governor Ademola Adeleke.
On a quick break to get a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back and the conversation will continue. Stay with me. So today's conversation is about the tribunal verdict and, of course, the appeal court case of Governor Ademola Adeleke, who was sacked on the 27th of January after a case of forgery allegation. And, of course, I've been discussing this controversy with Mr. Olawale Rasheed, the senior spokesperson of the Osun State Governor. Again, many thanks for all that you've shared thus far, Mr. Rasheed. But before we go ahead, I think it's important for me to open our phone lines. Don't forget that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio numbers 0988 77400 showing on your screen right now. And of course, you can also make your comment via our social media platform. We're streaming live on Facebook and of course on YouTube page, both on Real Talk with Care platform and on Silverbird platform. Sir, with all that you shared thus far, I can't help but come to the submission of the fact that the tribunal chairman should explain how he arrived at his opinion when the Court of Appeal has cleared Governor Adeleke of any forgery, because those are some of your words that I'm using right now or that I'm quoting. So how did you arrive at that basis on the part of the tribunal, tribunal chairman?
The tribunal chairman made reference to issue of forgery testimonial. And when you look through the pleadings and explanation analysis of the APC, they never made any reference to testimonial. In fact, they never made any reference to forgery. The closest they have done was to question whether Governor Adeleke is qualified or not. And in our defense, we put up all the qualification certificates of the governor. And the judge, the chairman, in his judgment, was now saying, okay, we know he's qualified, we have checked all the certificates, but he forged a testimonial, something the petitioner never mentioned. And you get it, if the petitioner had even mentioned something like that, well, we'll say, okay, the judge is responding to what the petitioner referred to, but the petitioner did not even refer to issue of testimonial. And secondly, we were so shocked that the judge will revert to a judgment already delivered. How can a lower court be reviewing the judgment of a higher court? This is a matter that has been litigated upon in 2018, and there was a landmark ruling that clearly exonerated Governor Adeleke of anything like forgery. So that's why we're asking the judge, in what way, who gave him that information? Where does he receive it? Because clearly, if the principal has come up and said, oh, we made a mistake on that paper, just a testimonial, not certificate, testimonial, and say, oh, instead of putting Oyo, we put Osun. And they say, but it's our document. And the person in question, the student, was our student, was even the captain of our football club in the school. So that's why we're asking the judge, how come, where did you arrive at this issue of forgery, when even the petitioner did not make any reference to it? That's why we are saying Justice Kume is clearly
all right. Apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought. We have Daniel from Osun State. Daniel, many thanks for calling. Please go straight to the topic at hand. What's your contribution on the topic at hand?
I think that matter has been resolved. That matter has been resolved in the concerning the certificate forgery. Concerning the certificate forgery. Therefore, concerning the overvoting, there's no overvoting in the election. The election was free and fair. God bless Nigeria.
Many thanks, Daniel, for your contribution. Sir, you can go ahead.
The reality is that, one, there is no forgery because it has been resolved by Court of Appeal in 2018. Secondly, there is no overvoting. What happened is simply that the judge, because of bias, simply went on window shopping, like I said, instead of checking the evidence before it, which is the Form ECA and the Beavers Machine report. The man abandoned those one and went ahead to rely on a secondary source, which is Sava report. And you remember, INEC came up sometimes ago and said there was an attempt to hack their server. In fact, subsequently, the head of ICT was transferred. The server report was gotten under controversial circumstances. Everybody is aware of it. Now, how can the judge now come up and said you are relying on a secondary source of information and you abandon the basic source, which is Form EC8, as well as the Beavers Machine, which were all before the court? So thank you, Daniel, for that. We know at the Court of Appeal, justice will surely be gained.
This matter, because with all that you've shared thus far, you're talking about the server, you're talking about the beavers and the likes, and of course him abandoning the main source and going to secondary source. I want to believe that Justice Kume of the Osun Governorship Tribunal ruled based on the facts and evidences before him, but with all that you've shared thus far, that it was not based on the evidence but secondary information. Or are there any suggestion or pointers to believe that the entire case and the tribunal ruling was politically planned or sponsored?
Yes, that's exactly what we believe in. It's a political judgment. It's not a legal judgment in the real sense of it. Now, the petitioner came to court to say, okay, there is overvoting. We said there is no overvoting. To determine overvoting, you have to do two things. You have to check Form EC8. That's to check the number of accredited voters, the number of people that voted and all those. Then you have to check what is in the Beavers Machine. To say, okay, let's check the Beavers Machine. What are the data there? Because that's the primary source, as well as the Form EC8. Now, you'll be able to determine overvoting when you compare and do synchronization. But in this case, there is what they call server, where you send some electoral data to. But the server can be problematic because the server depends on internet connectivity, power availability, and human angle. That's human tampering. And incidentally, during that same period, INEC recorded hacking of their website and server, which implies that whatever reports you got from that server cannot be trusted, cannot be that credible. What you cannot do when you have problem with the server is to go back to the primary source, which is the Form EC8 and the Beavers Machines. But the judge in this ruling abandoned anything about Form EC8, abandoned anything about the Beavers Machine, and instead said, no, I'm not relying on primary sources. I'm going to the server report as submitted by the APC. And what is even more annoying, and that is angering people of Osun State, is that the results the chairman now rely on to pronounce so person as the winner was the result APC has been sharing around throughout during their own media trial. They've been doing deduction and addition to say, okay, this is why Oyetola won. So we believe the judgment cannot stand because it's politically motivated. It's an attempt to deny the people of their popular will. That is the mandate freely given to Governor Ademola Adeleke. And we believe we have very strong trust in the judiciary that at the end of the day, justice will be done.
Insight from your hand right there. I think we have a caller on the line from Osun State to Victor. Victor, are you still there? All right, Precious, what's your contribution on the topic at hand? Please go straight to the topic at hand, please. Many thanks for calling. Precious. Are you there, Precious? Speak to me. All right, apologies, we lost that phone call. Sir, with all that you've shared thus far, what are you looking at in terms of appeal and winning this case at the Court of Appeal?
Thank you very much. While I will not want to go into the technical details, because it's about strategy and tactics, but what I will just say is that Governor Adeleke has a very strong faith in the Nigerian judiciary, and we have the belief and the trust in God and man that by the time we submit our appeal finally, the upper court will reverse the miscarriage of justice that you just have in Osun. And you also remember what happened immediately after the judgment. The state erupted in protest against the judgment because it's an attempt to gain power through the back door. It's an attempt to snatch power from the people who have freely given it to Governor Ademola Adeleke. So our expectation at the Court of Appeal is that justice will be done, the lower court judgment will be reversed, and many interest groups are also taking steps to ensure that any judge, like what we just witnessed, that they are reported to NJC. And in fact, I was told that there is ongoing demonstration in Abuja as we are granting this interview, and that people are even submitting petitions to the Nigerian Judicial Council, reporting the judge, because for the untoward conduct, for the unprofessional conduct, because it was clearly not a judgment that one would expect from a fair and unbiased mind. And for him to even go to the level of mentioning Buga, because the governor dances, is that a crime? If somebody like jogging every morning, can you then hold that against him? If somebody likes singing every morning, it's an habit. It has nothing to do with his public conduct. And he has been delivering on his mandate. He just approved the payment of salary area, half salary that former Governor Oyetola did not touch. He just approved full payment. So the state people were so shocked that, who want to return us to slavery again? So we have the belief, the confidence in the integrity of the judiciary, and we have hope that justice will be done.
All right, fantastic submission right there. And I agree with you because I remember vividly me giving a submission on the trending when his matter came up that I do not see how somebody who loves to dance, who loves to, who loves to sing, that should be an issue for us in this country. We have tons of economic and political issues and infrastructure challenges that is affecting us every day, day in, day out. But, moving away from that, obviously you are working and fighting against the ruling party in the country. And you've explained your plans, the strategy and the likes. But, I must spoke to you a little bit about expectations, because I'm of the school of thought that one must manage one's expectation in this country, especially when it comes to the fact that, the rule of law is not respected. What are your expectations concerning the outcome and the dynamics at the Court of Appeal, if, allegedly, but I'm hoping and praying that all of this is being swept under the carpet and we can all together actually have a song to sing,
Yeah, now, like I said earlier, power is that difficult to get and that difficult to retain. So we understand the desperation of the other camp. It's not easy to just be booted out by the people after having been in power for 12 years. But what people must realize is that there are two sources of power, and they are all intertwined. Power comes from God and through the people. And when people voted, that means God has actually destined the person to rule. So our hope is not just in the judiciary, as the Allo Chamber, where we believe we'll get justice. We believe we'll get justice because we believe in the integrity of the Nigerian judicial institution as a whole, even though you have some bad eggs that normally rubbish the system. But we believe in rule of law, due process, and we believe with due diligence that we are putting in our appeal, we will actually get victory at the higher court. And secondly, we are also calling on God. He's a God of justice. And you know, God gives power and takes power. And we believe it is God. In 2018, we won and we were robbed. We were robbed, daylight robbery. In 2022, God said, no, Ademola Adeleke must govern. And he's there now. And we believe our God does not just do half job. We have the support of Almighty God, and we have that of our people. Just go across Osun. People have been cursing anybody that attempts to take power from the people's government. And people have been praying. Just this morning now, our clerics across Osun, they've declared 7-day fasting. Just this morning, the pensioner group was shocked that we agreed to pay, despite the fact that the state has no money. Governor Ademola Adeleke has not been taking security votes. He said, no, I'm not interested in that. I want to serve. We've been traveling around on personal expenses. So we have very strong hope, one in the judiciary, and secondly in God and man, because we believe when the people are with you, that is God with you. So eventually, we have no doubt in our mind that that mandate remains sacrosanct, and Governor Ademola Adeleke will not just spend that 4 years. By mandate of people and God, he will spend 8 years in Osun State.
Yeah, I say a big amen to that, so that all of this, we can just put it behind us and it can continue to govern the good people of Osun State in peace. I wish you the very best, and thank you for coming on the show today. It's been an interesting time with you, Mr. Olawale Rasheed. Many thanks again. It's been very awesome with all that you have shared thus far. And I think before we wrap up the show, there's a documentary that we need to actually, show right now. I want to introduce also some of the things that happens, especially when it comes to policy and the politics that that actually goes on in the corridor of power. And I just feel that, especially when it comes to good initiatives, there's a strong link between politics and project outcomes in Nigeria. And of course, similarly, there is a dependent relationship between the policies formulated and of course by the government and the outcome of those policies based on political influences. And Dr. Darlington Akosoro, is a researcher, a global scholar who has actually published a number of international articles on the subject at hand and of course beyond. And I think it's important for us to let's take a quick break and watch this profound documentary. I'll be right back. Stay with me.
Project Management and Politics, written in 2021 by Dr. Darlington Akaiso, is a handy, well-documented work on various abandoned initiatives in Nigeria. It is an instant revelation of untold practices, politics, tricks, tactics, and antics surrounding the conception and implementation of projects, programs, and policies in the country. The book says the initiatives are caught in the evil circle, and it is the Nigerian people and their generations that bear the brunt.
Around the world, government is the authority and machinery through which the will of the people is formulated, expressed and actualized. Whether the government derives its legitimate authority from the people or from something beyond the people, the purpose of government is to control the collective direction of the people and protect them.
In Nigeria, however, the battle for popularity between past and incumbent leaders in government is often the crux of the politicking. Most politicians who find themselves in power tend to view their administrations as their own establishment, assuming to have no relationship with the administrations of their predecessors except in rivalry or in competition. This sad trend is sustained to bring them self-gain. They constantly prioritize projects, policies and programs that fetch them high political points with little or no concern for the people or developmental trajectory set by their predecessors. When these self-motivated initiatives are abandoned, the succeeding leadership often blames the failure on previous administrations instead of seeing it in a wider spectrum of general failures of government. One striking attribute of good governance is that it hinges on continuity in politics, in policies, programs and projects, growth, productivity and sustainable development of the people and their society come when they are continuously built on the structures laid down by previous administrations. In Nigeria, there are a lot of projects, policies and programs that have been discontinued or ignored as a result of changes in leadership, thus making a mockery of the often quoted cliché of government is a continuum. Some politicians see continuity in government as merely a particular political party continuing to stay in power over a long period of time. They hardly see it as the ability of a government to have a unity of purpose in addition to alignment of vision. A lot of projects have been abandoned with no hope of ever being revisited. As of 2011, the report of the Abandoned Projects Audit Commission, set up by then-President Goodluck Jonathan, estimated that 11,886 federal government projects were abandoned in the previous 40 years. Thus, it seems that the evil cycle of abandonment is a conspiracy that is systematically engineered. It keeps the power class rich and strong, while the governed stay poor. Why abandoning these initiatives in Nigeria? A possible way to hurt or erase a predecessor's legacy is to put the project they initiated on hold, with no regard for how it might affect the citizens. It is commonplace to have former leaders bemoaning and condemning their successors for ignoring their initiatives. In Akwa Ibom State, for instance, the tension between the government of Godswill Akpabio and its successor, Udom Emmanuel, has contributed in no small measure to the abandonment of the Ibom Tropicana project. This has resulted in the loss of vast habitable and fertile land, as well as having over 120 billion sunk into it. In the 5 years since Akpabio left office, the project suffered and has remained abandoned. This is a typical example of how Nigerian wealth has been squandered, leaving the majority of citizens to reel in poverty. In Oyo State, Governor Otumba Adebayo Alawakala intended to link the end of the Lagos-Ibadan Express Road with the Ibadan-Abeokuta Road at Akpata in order to ease traffic. The project was not completed by successor, ex-Governor Ajimobi, due to political tension. While speaking on radio program on September 5, 2020 in Ibadan, the State Commissioner for Information, Culture and Tourism, Wasiu Oluwatubosun, revealed that the late ex-governor Abiola Ajimobi, successor to Governor Otumba Adebayo Alawakala, deliberately ignored those projects due to his hatred for his predecessor. By doing so, he painted a picture of his predecessor's non-performance, thus burying his legacies. In Imo State, the former state governor Rochas Okorocha appealed to his successor, Governor Hope Uzodinma, on December 20, 2020, requesting that he stops demolishing his legacy projects, which were being overseen during his 8-year administration. Regardless, 2 days later, Uzodinma deployed bulldozers to demolish the Olu Road roundabout by Assumpta, which Okorocha had constructed during his tenure to ease traffic. Rochas Okorocha did cry out to Hope Uzodinma through his special advisor on media, Sam Omwemedo, appealing that he stops demolishing projects done by his administration. Hope Uzodinma, however, explained to Imo people that he was bringing them down to build them up to standard, a position that Okorocha strongly rejected.
Because they do not see continuity from the past to the present. Succeeding leaders fail to take responsibility for the government's past actions and inactions. In Delta State, the incumbent governor Otho Ifeanyi Okowa reportedly directed the people to blame the previous administration, led by Dr. Emmanuel Duaga, for its failure to complete the Trans-Warri Ode-Sekiri Road in Warri South local government area.
Another core reasons projects, programs, and policies crumble arise from the transition of power from one political party to another. Because these parties need votes to be in power, it is likely that constituencies that cast the majority of ballots in favor of victorious party are more greatly rewarded than those who voted for the other party. Corroborating this position, the secretary to the APC National Caretaker Committee and a board member of the Nigerian Port Authority, Senator John James Akpanuduedeye, during his November 2020 tour to Akwa Ibom State Council of Nigerian Union of Journalists, confessed that most of the time, political office holders concentrate on working in areas that gave them more votes, hence the abandonment of the Calabar-Itu Highway project. They often blame this on scarce resources and how to allocate these resources.
Calabar-Itu Road project now serves as a death trap, despite profuse promises by the federal government to execute the project. It's the only major land route that connects Akwa Ibom and the Cross River states, and it stands abandoned because the two states overwhelmingly voted for PDP candidates during the presidential elections in 2015 and 2019.
Take a look at the monorail project in Port Harcourt, commissioned by Chibike Amechi, a former governor of Rivers State, who was later appointed Minister of Transportation in Buhari's government. As a governor in 2008, Amechi initiated the monorail project designed to cover 12 kilometers to a cost of 50 billion. It was intended to make it possible to go from the old Port Harcourt to Greater Port Harcourt in 30 minutes instead of 2 hours, and the main goal was to alleviate constant traffic in the area. Who could have implemented the project through its final phase when mobilized during its predecessor's era? In 2009, the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly set up a committee chaired by Urwan State Constituency Representative Usen Akpabio to determine whether money paid for project was proportional to the work completed. When the committee finalized the report, it was revealed that the funds released for the project made their way into pockets of individuals rather than the contracted companies.
Oh, what a beautiful documentary right there. And I think that I will give us another classical example, which is the CBN policy of redesigning the Naira note and, of course, the deadline of exchange for new ones at our banks. You know, as good as the policy is. I would not try to, come across what the court of law have said and what Governor Emefiele is doing. But the question is, as good as the policy is, there's always a political undertone and motive towards most of these policies. There are many told and untold stories about the mishap happening to projects across the state, and of course the policies in Nigeria like this one that I just shared with every one of us. And I cannot help but just say that, we have the subsidy policy and many other projects at our hand, but yet do we have good governance to continue this is what I'm asking. We, or who are the ones who are going to bear the brunt today with all that we've seen thus far right now is what I'm also asking in pain. We see what is going on right now. We are those queuing at the filling stations today, and of course at the banks. Driving down from my office to the studio today, I saw how quite a number of queues were in front of the ATM machine. So I'm asking, how do we want to put together good heads and continuity of the previous projects, which I feel that those are some of the hiccups that we are facing today when it comes to governance. Most times it is because of the divide in policies or the divide in politics and so many other personal interests that actually happens when there's no continuity with good governance. So I'm asking in pain, how do we continue to enlighten ourselves? There's a need for us to know that the politicians who are progressive and development inclined are the people that we should continue to give good projects to, and of course the previous administration to continue the good legacy that they've started. I hope that a word is enough for the wise for Nigerians. The contact details of this documentary will be put out there, and of course the profile of the publisher is being displayed on the screen right now, and I hope that we can all create time to actually, enlighten ourselves regarding who we need to put in the corridor of power come 2023, because those are the things that we need when it comes to the continuity of good governance in this country, and of course many other things that has befallen our economy. On this note, till I come your way next week, please remember to stay kind to one another. And to my previous guest, my resourceful guest, Mr. Olawale Rasheed, who had to throw a lot of light on a lot of issues that is ongoing politically in Osun State. I hope that the people of Osun State will stand by the sitting governor and look for how to resolve all these issues and all the personal interest that is being involved, that it seems as if, like, let me use this word, window shopping issues. Yeah, window shopping challenges for the people of the state. Anyways, my name remains Kike Atanda-Owo. Till I come your way next week, please be kind to one another. Bye now.